Climate Change Brothers, and we're here to teach you another good lesson about the climate. And this time we're going to talk about the one forgotten group that everybody doesn't think about a lot, but the farmers.
Point number 1. The Climate Solutions Act and USDA Clean Energy programs attempt to help farmers with climate change and emission issues.
But speaking of farming, when farming has to do a lot with the weather. You know what I'm saying? The weather can make or break, a good farming year, right? So if and crops and stuff. We were talking about the Paris Accords and stuff, and there's also a Climate Solutions Act that may be coming up soon, or did they already pass it or something? I don't know. There's a new one coming out.
Yeah, they already passed it. It was back in 2021, but they had a couple 2-year. They have 2-year review processes to see how effective it is.
Okay.
And so I think they're assessing it right now, and but I think they're trying to see how many farmers it helped out or that it impacted. For example, there's some programs that I've kind of seen. I got like an email from one of the people in our department about how the USDA is hiring about 40 fellows to go out and assess how much the farmers are using clean energy on their farms. So that's another thing, because like you said, if you do anaerobic digesters, or if you're doing biofuel, I don't know how many are doing biofuel, but if you did biodiesel, I guess that would qualify
that's a good point. Are they trying to do more and more biodiesel over in these other countries in Europe that are having problems? With the diesel fuel emissions.
Oh, I think Germany's big in the biodiesel.
That'd be good.
That's what I've heard. That they have been in the past.
If they're not, that would be one thing to do that would probably help a lot. Would be, supporting more of the biodiesel fuel industry out there, I would think.
Yeah, because they know it does reduce as far as like the emissions and all that compared to the diesel.
Point number 2. The purpose of the USDA, cooperatives, and businesses are to help with regenerative agriculture practices for soil health and climate change.
We should have cooperatives. There are some across the United States, but if you have different cooperatives where you have a lot of farms involved and businesses involved with it, because it's just not a matter of pollution, but it's a matter of soil health. A lot of this is, and so a lot of the measures that they want to do is say, like, if you grow cover crops, or you do no-till farming, or you do rotational grazing. Those are the big 3 things.
You hit the 3 big ones there. That's something they should help the farmers understand and do better. Are those 3 things?
And the natural fertilizer. So I would say it's 4 things. It's natural fertilizer, rotational grazing, cover crops, and what was
no-till farming.
and no-till farming. Yeah, if they did
those things,
that
could reduce a lot of both in the cattle and in the farming industry. So,
point number 3. Carbon credits can be generated by farmers to help them afford projects to improve soil health and climate change.
And so cooperatives are great. I mean, you talked about them a lot, but in the past, but you could put them out in regions where farmers need to access these type of supplies or resources for supporting them in those 4 areas.
It could be simple things, just as providing like tractor tires or lubrication. Because I've seen a few cooperatives where they have like convenience stores like in the middle of nowhere, and they provide like the lubricants and the diesel fuel and feed for the cattle and just all these things that farmers need.
Yeah, but so they could, in addition to those things, which the farmers need, they could add more as far as helping them to reduce their emissions with other ways and other materials, like you're talking about the anaerobic digesters, some of the absorbers, some of the hey, here you go, here you have some here's some natural fertilizers we're trying to do more of, and here's how you can apply it, and or even just some consulting and assistance for the farmers out there as well.
Yeah,
to help them manage their farms more efficiently. Well, what about in the Climate Solutions Act? Is there anything about or in the past about farmers and carbon credits? Are farmers getting any carbon credits for things that they can do, like you're saying, if they use anaerobic digesters, or would that help them out if they could take advantage of some carbon credits?
Yeah, I think it would. That's why I'm glad to see some of these USDA programs coming out, like the 2 I mentioned. They need to have these agricultural specialists, go to these farms, that they can implement to help their soil health, but also help with climate change at the same time. And so if they do that, then they're like the frontline workers, and then they could involve other businesses like agronomy businesses that maybe be able to help them like implement a strategy of using natural fertilizer, and then if they're doing like the cover crops and the no-till, they could help them with that. So that's really essential, is that in order for these things to work, I think you're going to need a good agricultural force from the USDA and from small businesses and cooperatives. They all work together, then I think these things can be implemented. But we just can't expect this to all happen overnight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with
No,
all
you have
these
to
things.
give it some. You have to have time to implement it.
Point number 4, making biochar will help and generate carbon credits for farms.
Soil health is very. I mean, we're over farming a lot of times anyway, and that's keep dumping fertilizer on their farm and fertilize. And that's not healthy for the soil, so it has to recoup somehow. And that this will help it. You're right. What about you were talking one time about biochar? Would that help with some of the natural fertilizers?
That's what I've heard too. They're working on carbon credits for that. I don't know if they've established like how exactly that works, but that system could work pretty good. Biochar, we were talking about, a lot of people on their farm, they have crop residues, or they have like brush branches from them. They could use those to make biochar, and then you could add that back into the soil. So that's something that they could do. It's not really too difficult to do, because you need some wood to help produce it, but you could use like a couple barrels. I've seen this guy do it with a few just those big 50-gallon barrels, and you can make biochar and just put it in your apply it in your soil.
Well, have you ever driven around and you see when they're clearing land out, they'll make these big piles of branches and trees and bushes and just all of this, because they're clearing the land for whatever reason. It could be for farming, it could be for building a building or something like that. But what do? They'll pile all these things up, and they either take it to the dump and just dump it, which is not great for emissions, because that over time, while they're decaying, you have a lot of emissions. Over time, that's more than burning it. Or they'll just stack it up in piles, and if they can, they'll just burn all these. They'll dump a bunch of fuel on it and burn everything up. Well, it seems to me that could be a resource that you could say, hey, instead of you people doing that, take it here and we'll make biochar out of it or something like that, or we'll help the industry, and that way we can reduce our emissions that way.
Point number 5, world organizations should be working towards increasing and enhancing food supply, not eliminating it.
Do you think, we mentioned the World Economic Forum, do you think they're coming up with these solutions? Are they helping out? Because they have several items on their agenda for the World Economic Forum. One of them is climate change solutions, and I wonder if they're trying to help. Again, I don't know the answer to this question. I'm just throwing it out there. But are they trying to help come up with solutions? Because they got a lot of smart people there. They got people from industry, government. They got all kinds of people out there. 3,000 of them that are all from all walks of life, and they're talking about the economy, economics. They're talking about global cooperation, and they're talking about AI. And they're also talking about climate change. And I hope that they've got these big brains in there talking about, hey, how can we help the agricultural industry reduce smartly? I hope that's what they're doing. Do you think that do you have any signs that they're doing that?
I think a lot of it has to do with the food supply. Like I think cattle is a big issue. One other thing too is alternative food supplies. We were talking about how you could grow algae and maybe mushroom.
I think that's a great idea because those things have almost. They don't have zero emissions, but they're nearly zero emissions when you compared to the agriculture. And so you can grow mushroom and algae in bioreactors and other things that are very, very energy efficient. Plus, they don't take up land. Very little land, because they're usually you can put them anywhere. That is a huge game changer. We need to do more of that, because the more and more you sit there and you go slam on the agriculture industry and not replace it with something, then you're tempting, or not tempting, but you're playing with fire there a little bit on food sources that the world needs, because we need more and more and more food sources. So we can't just get rid of some of the food sources we have now. That's not going to be good. We need to help make those more efficient and less emitting, and add to that, because the world population, we're not going down. We're still going up right now. So we're going to have to figure out how to feed everybody, and then also reduce at the same time the emissions. And so just saying slash the farming, slash agriculture, make them stop emitting. Well, that's easy to say, and I agree that they need to do something there. But that may be a consequence that we might suffer from if we're too harsh too quickly. Then all of a sudden food prices start going up. You get more and more problems. The poor people are now going, how am I going to live? So you have this chain reaction of things that can be very bad. So yeah, you're right. Hopefully they're thinking of some of these things that we're putting out, or even better things than we're putting out. And now, so yes, in summary, what agricultural industry needs to reduce their emissions. We all know that, but they need help. They need help without reducing the food supply of the world.
Yeah.
I think that would be very important. So, well, great. That was good discussion, and so we hope that helps people out, and that we can educate more and more. So that's all we're trying to do. So you can decide whether the farm industry is doing their part. Do they need to do more? Do they need to do less? Do they need help? That's something people can decide for themselves, right? So the more and more they do research, and so we encourage everybody to look into these things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, we're the Climate Change Brothers. Today we talked a lot about agricultural stuff and climate change, and we also talk about energy and engineering sometimes. And so we did that last time with the car. So now we're doing more of agricultural stuff. So anyway, we hope to tackle more and more of these complex issues. So until then, we will sign off and see you next time.